Hey everyone, Brayden here coming to you with a breaking Mickey Views special report. Today we'll be combining research that I've been conducting for weeks pertaining to the latest developments on the Brightline intercity passenger rail system, soon to connect Miami all the way to Tampa, with news that broke yesterday as I was working on this, where Disney got out ahead of the story and said, yes, we are no longer involved with the Brightline project, and that Brightline's Disney Springs station has been canceled. Oh man. All right. So for those of you who aren't aware, Brightline is this incredible new intercity passenger rail service already operating between Miami and West Palm Beach. It is the first new privately is the future of transportation here in America. It is this biodiesel that they're using. It's this EPA Tier 4 locomotive. Everything that they're doing here is amazing. It's very environmentally friendly. It's efficient. It moves a ton of people. It'll be capable of moving a ton of people. Right now, they're just running trains hourly. That's how it's going to be to start here. That's what they're currently doing, and that's what they'll be doing in Orlando and everything. But if this is successful, they could run even more often than that. And they are future-proofing this entire system, the infrastructure, where a lot of it is double tracked, meaning you can have trains going both ways at once, so you can have trains going more often. Right now, Brightline is 80% done on their route from West Palm Beach up to Cocoa, where then it goes over and connects to the Orlando International Airport. So that entire route will be opening next year. And simultaneously, preliminary work is happening on the Phase 3 route, which will go through the city of Orlando from the Orlando International Airport to Disney, or at least what was supposed to be a station at Disney. Earlier on in the development of this project, Brightline, this private entity, was faced with, okay, we aren't going to get tons of help on funding because this is a private service, it is for profit. How can we afford to get through Orlando, this dense populated area, as cheaply as possible? Because Brightline's goal is to connect to Tampa. They're trying to connect Miami through Orlando to Tampa. That is their goal. So how do we get through Orlando in a way that doesn't break the bank? So they were pushing for this route south of Orlando through Hunters Creek, which would avoid the very crowded tourism corridor you have more north at the expense of not providing service to that tourist corridor you have along I-4, where there's a lot of money involved. There's a lot going on up there where, you know, it'd be beneficial for the train to go through that area, but it's just so expensive because that area is so built out. Now, what's interesting is a corridor through the heart of the tourism corridor has been considered by Florida in the past. 10 years ago, there was this high-speed rail alignment that they were considering as they were planning out how they were going to improve I-4. And the reason this didn't happen was funding, of course. This is something that would have been extremely expensive, and they ended up reassessing the plan, and the rail was cut out of it. Now, what's interesting is a decade ago, it was rumored that Universal might have had something to do with the rail being cut out of the I-4 expansion project, the I-4 improvement project. And Disney, it was also rumored, wasn't too hot on this either. So it seemed like the big tourism players you have in Orlando weren't really that interested in having this rail going through I-4 for whatever reason. Fast forward a decade to now, here is what is happening. A coalition of businesses in that prime tourism corridor have lobbied hard for Brightline to not go with the cheaper 417 route and instead take the more costly route along I-4. By tacking FDOT's Sunrail onto this new, more expensive corridor, Florida is now eligible to take advantage for the Orlando International Airport to the east. Those parts would be the private Brightline portions, and that center part would be a shared, not as nice, but more affordable Sunrail service. Sunrail currently has a north-south corridor in Orlando. By basically making its route into a plus sign, it'll be able to access all these tourist destinations people want to get to. So to make sure you understand what's really happening here, Universal, a power player in Orlando, along with these other businesses and the city of Orlando, have been so enthusiastic about this Brightline project, moved up, where now Brightline will be running through the heart of the city, and it's going to have a station at the Orange County Convention Center, minutes away from Universal, SeaWorld, and all the other tourist attractions in that area. Universal is donating 13 acres, a parcel that they own by the Orange County Convention Center, for Brightline and Sunrail to construct a station here, right next to the convention center center itself. Meanwhile, Disney, I'm hearing, has stopped returning calls from people involved with this project. As Universal and the tourism corridor became more and more involved, whatever, we don't care, and has ceased involvement in one of the biggest infrastructure projects currently happening in the United States. A corridor which, just to start, is already projected to have an annual ridership in the millions. So now that the Sunshine Rail Corridor incorporates this stop at the Orange County Convention Center and is taking this route along I-4, and from there, for Brightline's sake, it needs to head to Tampa. That's where Brightline's trying to go. Brightline now has to face that challenge that they are trying to avoid, of trying to get track through that very expensive, very built-out area along I-Drive. So there are two options here. One is FDOT can reincorporate the rail corridor into their I-4 improvement plans. The problem here is it would increase the cost of the I-4 improvement plans quite a bit, and FDOT is already getting underway on this I-4 improvement project that they have been planning for a long time along the most dense part of the I-4 corridor. You may have heard about that shopping center right outside of Walt Disney World property, Crossroads, which has been demolished. That land was acquired for these I-4 improvements by FDOT for $198 million. So needless to say, FDOT is already very invested in their current I-4 improvement plans along this stretch. So if rail can't be worked into their current plans, where the train would travel at grade down the center of I-4, as the plan was a long, long time ago, that would leave Brightline and Sunrail with only one option: inside. Now you might say, couldn't they just build some sort of flyover where the train can just go right over the road or under the road and get right over there? That is very, very expensive. You want to keep the train at grade as much as possible. And second of all, unlike Universal and other partners in the city of Orlando who are donating land, time, personnel, construction expense, all of this out of enthusiasm for this project, seeing all its potential, Disney, meanwhile, has been taking a very different approach. Disney has made clear that they will contribute $0 towards this project, but they will allow Brightline and Sunrail to have a station on their property. Prior to the change in routes, there was a planned site at Disney Springs being looked at where the station could be built. The problem is, now that the route has been changed and the angle that the Brightline Sunrail track will be coming in at creates a much more severe turn into that previously planned station, it basically makes the previous Disney Springs station plan irrelevant. That basically is off the table at this point, which has prompted Disney to go ahead and say, hey, we're out of this project. Essentially, it'd be too sharp of a turn, and it's very hard to find a spot for a station like this in general, because you basically need a quarter-mile long stretch just for the station itself, just for the platform, which is pretty insane to think about. These are pretty long passenger trains here that Brightline has. Also, the station has to be at a certain angle, so the turn in and the turn out aren't too extreme, and so that Brightline can get to where they're trying to go. So this stuff gets very, very complicated, and Disney's lack of enthusiasm and decreasing involvement as Universal's involvement increased has resulted in a new station plan being formed opposite Disney property on the east side of I-4, where Brightline is now considering a purpose-built intermodal terminal, where from this station you'll be able to transfer to buses and rideshare and access all the tourist destinations in the vicinity, with this no longer being a proprietary Disney station. So that's what's gotten us to today, where news has broken. A Disney spokesperson told the Orlando Business Journal, quote, "As many people who are involved in this project are aware, the new route configuration does not support a Disney Springs station, and as a result, we don't anticipate being part of this project." Last week, I put out a tweet enumerating the challenges that Disney's facing, particularly in Florida right now, that just keep mounting and mounting and mounting, and I alluded to there being another one that we would find out about soon, and I was referring to this one. What was a proprietary Disney Springs stop for this huge infrastructure project that'll be trafficking millions upon millions of people every year now looks to be completely off the table. And a lot of this has to do with Universal. The enthusiasm they've shown towards this project has really motivated the politicians, the board members, the people at Brightline, everyone involved, all the different organizations here to get their stuff together, because there's an actual interest in this from the big businesses in the area. But also on another front, I've heard rumors, I can't confirm these, but I have heard this from people who do know a lot about, the politics in Central, with the situation with Reedy Creek. As you've probably heard, this has been going on for a little while now. I haven't commented on it because the legality stuff is very up in the air. A lot of people pretend they know what's going to happen. Here's what's going to happen with Reedy Creek, which is the special district, which basically governs Walt Disney World. We don't know exactly how that's all going to pan out just yet, but I've heard that Universal might have been an instigator, where perhaps they talk to the governor and say, hey, we're trying to build out this huge resort. They're adding another another park. Everything's getting further apart. They're really building out this massive complex. Why are we not allowed to do things that Disney is allowed to? They have this special district which predates a lot of the current Florida law. Why do they get this special treatment? This is anti-competitive, and we are trying to get to their level. Just throwing that out there, something that I've heard as a rumor. I think there's also some other reasons why there's, a lot of antagonism between the governor and Disney right now, but that's just something to keep in mind, that Universal is very proactive here. They are involved on all fronts, so it's not just the rail project that they're super proactive about. I think they're being proactive in other areas too, so just wanted to make note of that. But the news of the day with Brightline here is that we've got this awesome new train coming. It'll be bringing guests from the airport to the Orange County Convention Center, where from there you'll be able to get to Universal, who's building a new park, and it'll be bringing guests to this off-property station just minutes away from Walt Disney World property. And it's like, Disney, you could get the station back on property. It's possible, but I guess Disney doesn't think it's possible. With this statement, it kind of just seems like they're pouting. They're like, oh, we're just not involved anymore, whatever. It is what it is. The way it looks to me is it's the same as the story we've seen a million times the last couple of decades on Disney's end, where Disney is this mature, very successful business. They feel they don't need to invest much money. Meanwhile, you have this aspirational, highly motivated, up-and-coming competitor doubling down on the money they're investing, hiring away much of the talent at Walt Disney Imagineering, and all the while Disney says, oh, they can't hurt us, it doesn't matter. Guests end up going to Universal, and then all of a sudden Disney says, oh man, we need to do something to respond to this, and then they invest lots of money. And they always invest money way too late, always going into recessions, it seems like. And if you really boil it down, what it is Disney is very reactionary. So instead of seizing the opportunity with what I think is going to permanently change Florida travel and doing everything they can to capitalize on the potential here, instead they gave it a lukewarm reception, slapped Brightline, and then meanwhile, all these competitors, these hotel chains, Universal, the Orange County Convention Center, everyone involved there, they see so much potential here, and they are willing to do just about anything to make it happen. I've heard crazy rumors about what Universal wants to do in conjunction with this new corridor in the future, why they see so much potential here, and by the time this rail corridor is online, Epic Universe, Orlando's newest theme park, will be open. And throughout all of this, Disney will twiddle their thumbs, put parks profits into the studios, Disney Plus, ESPN Plus, things that don't make nearly enough return, all the while refusing to maximize profits on the product they have that is already working and working wonders and making all-time record profits. Why wouldn't you double down on what is working and be proactive about it to make all the money instead of just some of the money? I just don't understand Disney's philosophy here. It's very, very bizarre. And it seems like we're just going to continue to see this reaction thing that Disney likes to do continue here. We already know what's going to happen with Epic Universe. Kids, teens, and adults are going to say, hey, we want to go to Super Nintendo World. And they're going to get off the plane, and here's going to be a cheap, quick, efficient way to get from the plane straight to Universal. And Universal actually wants you there. Universal's actually doing stuff that's pro-consumer. They actually seem to like their guests. They're providing them more value instead of just charging more with nothing in return and making things more difficult. You have to make a reservation before you go to the park. All this ridiculous stuff that Disney's doing. What do you think is going to happen to Disney's market share when Epic Universe opens? We already know what's going to happen, but Disney will be in denial about it. I think people at Disney think that their audience is completely separate from Universal's. There's no crossover. The others go over there. The Disney people will always be Disney people. Keep treating them like you are, and we'll see how that pans out. So what's going to happen is Epic Universe is going to open. It's going to take away market share, and then Disney's going to say, wait, no. We do want you guys here. We're going to start investing in all this new stuff. We're going to bring back extra magic hours. We're going to do all these sorts of things. And you could say that's just the nature of Disney because they are this very successful company. They're this very successful park. They already have arrived, whereas Universal is arriving. So they're more scrappy. They're more motivated. They're trying. That Disney wasn't willing to invest anything in having the rail corridor connected directly to property because Disney has the cruise line business where guests go from Disney to Port Canaveral. Currently, they take a bus. It takes hours. You have to get over there. Guess what Brightline is considering right now? They're considering adding a station along their West Palm Beach to Orlando route in Brevard County. So instead of taking a bus hours across the state, if Disney had a station on property, you would be able to take a high-speed, modern commuter train system from Walt Disney World property all the way across the state to your cruise ship and vice versa. Apparently, Disney sees $0 of value in this. They are not willing to invest anything in seeing this. This is an ongoing project. The federal government is contributing grants for more research to be conducted on the routes. Not all of this is set in stone just yet. There are board meetings being conducted with FDOT, lots of decisions still to be made. I think if Disney were to start picking up the phone again, which they won't, they just released this pouty statement saying, we're not involved anymore. If Disney got over that and, sort of, put their pride aside and got involved here again, with that federal funding FDOT might be able to get here, it might be so much money from the federal government that it's possible the FDOT could actually bring rail back into their I-4 improvement project, where the train would be able to travel along the center of I-4 like the plan was a long time ago. And in that event, Disney could get their preferred on-property station back. But Disney is such a bureaucracy with so much infighting. I just don't see them getting it together here. I really don't. And CEO Bob Chapek has demonstrated a lack of interest in investing in the parks. They canceled the cheapest of cheap Mary Poppins meet and greet area plus teacup ride area in Epcot. They canceled that. You really think they're going to put money towards an on-property intermodal train station? I don't know if you guys know how much train stations cost, but it is a lot of money. So that's the latest update on the Brightline rail system in this corridor that they're gonna be sharing with Sunrail through the city of Orlando here. Despite the bad news for Disney on this front and many fronts, this rail corridor itself is very, very exciting. It is very good news for everyone who visits Florida, everyone who lives in Florida. It is very pro-consumer, and this is something that we are all going to be able to take advantage of. It is a miracle when this thing comes online. We're talking the end of the decade here for the Orlando portion. By that time, even if the station is on the other side of I-4, it's not actually on Disney property, by then Disney will have gotten their wits about them, and there will be some sort of plan worked out where they can get people from the intermodal terminal station to Disney resort hotels and things like that. But the plan as it stands right now is not looking so favorable for Disney, and all the while their main competitor is really, really hands-on with this project. I know Disney's the creme de la creme for Orlando themed entertainment. They are where the money is, so I think they feel that they can be prideful and demand everyone bow their heads and do whatever they say, but I think they should throw that nonsense out, because that attitude Disney's been projecting lately is what comes right before the fall. Disney should be much more proactive in maintaining their dominance, because Universal, from what I've been hearing, has some big, big plans, and you don't even need sources to know that. If you just fly over Orlando, you can literally see what they're working on here, what those plans are, with Universal working on Epic Universe right now, and that's just one project. They have aspirations beyond even just that I've been hearing about. So Disney, wake up, man. If you'd like to, this is an ongoing project. There'll be much more news from it as things continue to develop. We'll see what happens. That station that's now on the other side of I-4, as I said, it can move back to Disney, if Disney got involved, which is just astonishing. So let me know what you guys think about all of this. Thank you so much for watching. From the Mickey V's Magic Studio, this is Brayden. Have a magical day.